No, it's not. It can't be. It can't be. Because it cuts in.
All right. Hi.
Hi.
So we're doing some prayers, I believe.
Yeah.
So
we're not doing full tunes. We're just doing a thing. We'll see. Saji,
Origination, Origination, Sangeshin to Miteo, Guru Rama Menda Vakandea Tayami Sangi Chonan Soki Chonan La Chanchu Pandi Pandi Kapsuchi Tangi Siki Betsona Rola Peche Sange Trupa Sho Sangi Chonan Soki Chonan La Chanchu Pandi Pandi Kapsuchi Tangi Siki Betsona Rola Peche Sange Trupa Sho Sanje Chonan Soki Chonan La Chanchu Pandi Pandi Kapsuchi Tangi Siki Betsona Rola Peche Sange Trupa Sho Kangi tuzi nizone tawa tamche pambishi tambi chun kenzi kodam kela changzi lo. Good evening, everyone. The cousin of the Nima Gaps, Gapsun Konima, and Sanji Konjo, the Chukunjo Tolia, Sudan, the Chukunjo Namanduajda, Sudanki, Chuchik Mundo Australia, in a name of Chukunjo Tolia, Kazinima, Motor Shop, some of the shearers, right? Is that Dinan, the Chidan Sanji Chini, but the three the Kazari Kinigan Yawam Shison there. And German the Chini would be thought in John the Chabatel team, but the Asi Shuchik. We will continue with the presentation that we've been looking at in the last few weeks. So Geshe has been talking about the three refuges. Previously, in a previous couple of sessions, we've spoken of the Buddha Jewel, the Buddha refuge, and then the Dharma Jewel, the Dharma refuge. In general, we can say that there's nothing that is not subsumed under the Dharma Jewel. In that sense, nothing is excluded from the Dharma Jewel. But also in a more kind of specific way, when we look at, for example, the teaching that His Holiness has been given in the last 3 days. So he taught today, yesterday, and the day before. He taught from in praise of dependent arising, emphasizing the two aspects of the Buddhist tradition, the Buddhist teaching, the aspect of the philosophical view of dependent origination and the practice of non-harmfulness, non-violence.
Gyanzi George Tantumana, and in a Kanshivati, Titolia, Chick Shandel the Muslim chick, and the Shivaina, and against the Chimbudos, Maraman, Dinish Tongdus, Gyanzi Toboyana, and the Tobotarochi, and in a Kanshivati, in eating a shoe, and Titolia, Ronichivan, the telesubs, telegachi, and the Malan Khan, Shesike, Chidan Yomaros.
So his honest taught in praise of dependent arising. Not only a few of us here have attended those teachings daily, but also people at home. I believe some of you have attended those teachings. So if you have any questions arising from his honest teaching, if there were things that you did not understand, things that were not that clear, you can bring them up. If you have any questions, then please either you can unmute yourself and ask the question, or write it in the chat, or people here can also ask questions. Geshe sees a great purpose in making some points clear. If you find that if you some points to be unclear, that you're not sure of, his honest gave a certain explanation. Geshe is not sure that he can speak about it in a way that is more deep or more profound, but we can still try. So any questions, any doubts?
Tilda, Kansas Joy, the Paraguay, Tanchoros, the Kanji, and the Jaronji 2000, the Tilda, Tanamchi, Suzu Pigia, Chichilla, Jambatis, Yavana, Kang Jangugi, and Sanjamindi, Sonre, Yagar Kivi Sonre, and it Pig Kivi Sonre, touching Jaman Suguchu, Subi, and it give it on the two, so Malaya. And Doton Nimbutsu Dusadi, Tawatenjon, the Jovatel Tolia, and Duviovadi, and Siwshuch Chidanamgi, the Suzuki, and Shiatari, and Gulamri, Mamuch Tonda, Kondrogo, Matochi, Kanji, Suzuina Titolia, she Shugia Daddy, and the Digitolia, and it Shugarina, and Ton, Suzu in the Surdus.
Even if you don't have a question right now, if you have some doubt or question arising later on, then we can still take questions. But anyway, for those of you who have done some study, those of you that have developed some understanding of the Buddha Dharma, looking at the teachings of His Honest, the Dalai Lama, you can see that he draws heavily from, first of all, the teachings of the Buddha, the Bhagavan, but also from the great Indian masters, the great Tibetan masters that came after that and gave their own explanation of the teachings of the Buddha and the Indian masters, and also other teachers that came along at different point in time. All of them, you could say all of those different explanations are summarized in the teachings that His Honest gave in elucidating these two aspects of the philosophical view of dependent origination and the practice of non-harmfulness, non-violence. It is clear that those aspects are extracted from those teachings. So in speaking of those two aspects, explaining them, you could get different explanations. There are different modes of explanation. They are transmitted in different lineages, they come through different lineages. It is possible that you get teachings coming from different perspectives, but at the end, they still come down to those two aspects.
I'll try and make this short.
It's okay, you have an hour.
A question that was asked was about how do you apply, compassion in the face of such suffering that's going on at the moment, in light of these teachings of the dependent arising. It's always difficult to really understand that connection. So it'd be nice to hear Geshe talk about that relationship.
Tadila, Tanjutupati Sundu Kapsula Yanwa. 지산 텐산 두디 네츠디 때와 이나와 따와 텐준 토네 닌제 게츠디 토라 제시 갸투와이나스
Gore. That Chitangi Tenjong said the Chetamchi Tenjong Imbaji Sanjicham Digi Manjulaya, moderate numbers, the energy, John the Switch Mayimba, only big children nedu, and the Chetamchi Tenjong Imbadi, and it John the Taloni don't Nabja Tuji Konya, Sil which in Sonsha, and Tandi Chalaya, and it be any. Zambali namaya most tone there ra bigla nyamshu chingin by na ani sama golaya ani chila chigden chin ne yobati ani most tone to what of chick and do asra
Yeah, in general, whatever exists, all phenomena are dependent to rising. That the rising depends upon others, which is what the Buddha, the Bhagavan, have shown or has pointed out 2,600 years ago. So it's not something that the Buddha has made up. Dependent origination is not something that the Buddha created. Rather than that, it clearly showed or explained how phenomena exist. And this is something that we can also explore and investigate to see how whatever exists, exists only in mutual dependency, in mutual relationship.
tere dinza nganzu penzu ra nganzu penzu chigla chigden chin ne yobati nganzu pensagi ani ki sajin zambali la ya ten yobata zambali ki sa penati ani jonwa la ya ten yoba and zambali ki jon jo tondi nganzu tele tembi chigden kamgi ta chig mere ani chig socha samalo la ya ani dedu la ya jo to ti yobati and tonchus single asra.
So whatever exists, exists in mutual dependency. We can see that, for example, in the world that we live in. We can see those types of dependencies. Not only the world, but also the elements. So the world depends upon the elements. We depend upon the elements. And when the elements go through a process of transformation, then we as human beings or other living beings are affected by that. It affects our happiness and suffering, our pleasure and pain. This is something that is totally visible to us.
That pen namgu dojan by now, that no shock and Jacobi, that Shazog Jacob Solayachi. And Shazog Jacob so no shock Jacob and didn't but she to make Chawati, Mamuj Chigioras, Kanji Chigioras, Chichile, Tem Mugubi, Nawaji kitchen, to make Chawaji Chigioras, in a talendu and that Janani Kabi Nasati, Leon Digi, Zambeling ya, and co Lamsan Capsules, that Kanji Dundakashi Nomalia, Zambeling Caviora, tea, P. Chile Chicken, you have a tea ton, Cabaret, Chichile, Zawani, Jamich in Yovana, Nazat Caviar, Nedankora Lagmaras.
So that we're mutually dependent is clear, and yet when we look at how we act, first of all on an international level, when you look at the way that countries relate to each other in the East and in the West, it seems that sometimes we take actions as if we're unrelated to each other, as if countries in the East are not connected or related to those in the West and vice versa. So although we take actions pretending that they are unrelated, that we are unrelated to others, we can see how this is certainly not the case. And the striking example for that is, for example, the current pandemic originating in China and then affecting the whole world. So although we might have that idea that certain actions that we take are unrelated or not connected to others, it is evident that we are connected.
Teza Nanzu Deduk di zamni shanu gi gego samalo denjalaya tuk de yobadochik nganzungo sum di tonto yadosra.
So we can perceptually see, evidently see how our happiness and suffering in the East and in the West is affecting each other, right? So we are affected by each other. Our happiness and suffering are affected.
Tizada nganzugi susu digiti shenlaya tigi tutsur chimbuchik tone ni yobati mashibi ongi ani shenlaya tumi chawachiteva dita the ninjig yulti said tindijlaya zigdos ra ninjig yulti mashi mumbi ongi mumbi shawn churteva di ninjig yulres tangwanjina.
Though our happiness and well-being is dependent upon others, still there are many that don't see that. They're unaware of their happiness and well-being being dependent upon others. And those that do not see that, those who are confused about it, those who are ignorant about it, are those that we observe in the cultivation of compassion. So if we think of who are we looking at or observing when we cultivate compassion? Well, we look at those, we observe those that do not see that their happiness and well-being depend upon others.
Tenjongi netsu mashibi mumbi wangi ani rangshen tsamalo ya ani madeva soyungu yobati the tendrik ton tani yawarum chusonde na jingi tendrik ribi ton da druptuya chik ra druptuya chagores.
And as Isonis says, you can prove through dependent origination that the unhappiness that we experience or situations in which we're not well is brought about through a lack of understanding of dependent origination.
Tinzada ani deval debatang dunham mende majiki miji ngune samlo tawaina kan deval jonsagi shedeleya chedichigu yobata sachim zingo wadi karsawada ramdenaya tukde yuchik ra muye nisul tukde bachik dindiji chagores.
So there are those that upon which our happiness and well-being depends. And since our happiness and well-being depends upon those beings, we need to cherish them. It is clearly the case that we need to cherish them or take care of them. In some sense, you can say that we need to cherish them for our own purpose to begin with.
Tenzata tenjong ribeton kadrup tugisladi tenjong ribetoni rang ge jem pamyang samlo di ani shinjulo jimbata yongya meba jimbadi ani tenjong ribeton tenjong ribetoni drup tugiyores.
So then when we think of the view of dependent origination, we can also then see how the attitude that seeks our own victory at the expense of others, even if others are defeated, is erroneous. It is an attitude that causes us problems. That becomes evident through the view of dependent origination.
Tenzata tenjong ribeton da jenjivan zingoyata ani chi namgyu samlo di ani rang ge jem pamyagi samlo di torgu yobadi tenjel teni ani potuyach ra potuyach chagdo astro.
So we can infer through the view of dependent origination, through the reasons of dependent arising, that we need to cherish others, that we need to discard an attitude that seeks our own victory at the expense of others.
Tenzata sanji chug nimbudi tiang tawa denjong dan chobo tselme badi re tang nonzu namgyu shogi ya lambandi ta konda mumani parti chi kunam ge sodi simjan tamje dewa de demba kyuchi se de ra tan nanchu thone ani tawa denjong da chobo tselme thone ani chi shen la ya pindi druk tu na tu re ma do deli shen ji gi ani chi 치 무부 아니 가주스 이야기 들어와 있느냐 아니 잠블리야 원이기 시디 트렌트야데 카부 슈즈레도 아스라 단다 파르던 잠블리 녀도 치 로야디 치 무부 이야기 토니 용되게 와도 세우 슈즈레도 아스다 카자르 티리쇼기 찌려야 이게 레바노스게 아니 롱바디 가스 치슈텔야 다가스 피기 추자된지 토니 개진은 동다시는 안지 배 아니 맹간을 기어던 캄보마무 슈스터 무마무 슈스세드니 드니 용근도 왔으더라 그 참을로 아니 딱 댄섬 토니 아니 뭐부 이야기 집을 때니 종사 유인바디 세우슈 차도 왔어
And this view of dependent origination is the essence of the Buddha's teaching. So then when we think of dependent origination and how it is also applied to our spiritual practice, then as we wake up in the morning throughout the different activities that we do during the day, and at night just before we go to sleep, we use that in order to wish others to be happy and to be well. May all sentient beings be happy. We think of the view of dependent origination in order to increase the wish for others to be happy. If we can then contribute to the happiness and well-being of others, then we need to do it. And also in keeping into consideration that if we do not also develop our own understanding, if we only focus on external means, external technology, on wealth and so forth, we will not be able to bring about the happiness and well-being that we and others seek. Actually, if we focus only on material progress, we will still be in a situation where there is suffering, there are more and more problems that we experience. So when we look at, for example, just in the events of the passing 24 hours, just yesterday, there was that horrible explosion at Beirut in Lebanon, and how many casualties there are, over 4,000 people in hospital injured, and also people that have lost their life. So if we only spend time and effort in pursuing those external means with a sense of competitiveness and so forth, there will still be problems and sufferings that we will experience.
These are the Suzu same thing Manam Gayata and the Ravachetida Kitchen Shuros, Nayanti Tig Lamsan Chigan Zambili Yolaya. And then pended troops said the Kabdulaya Kabu Shuji, the Yorda in the Yakanji, Sosu Muni, and it Manor was down, Manjo was Cheko, that so this that Susu Tuyata, Susu the Kokoyo, the Chagons, and Anzum when Susu when Shukago, Tiredosra, Sanji Chile, and Jambu, but then so the Sosu Muni, Yabuch, Jelia. Susula never come over the Jampan Tuyagi, Tolia, Tan Tuyati, and Susulia, Rawanda, Koko, that some young tea, Tony, Tam Machivanda, and Nova Remondo, that did chill Tonda, and it Shemba like carry on the thing on the and Tabshiwe Yuruchik.
And also we sometimes do heartfelt prayers for the sake of others, which is an important thing to do, but still it is difficult to expect that a great benefit and happiness will come through only by making heartfelt aspirational prayers. So we do them, and yet at the same time we need to also make sure that if we can do something for the sake of others in order to benefit others, we do our best. So we do our best at least to make sure that we do not act in a way that is mistaken, the way that is harmful and detrimental to others. It is important to at least make sure that from our own side, we do our best. This is the core of the trainings that we undertake. We do that in aiming at the benefit of others. So we can start to affect those around us with benefiting them, helping them out as much as we can, and also abstaining from harming them, together with making those heartfelt aspirations for greater benefit. So if we do that, that's good. But if we do not do that and we still continue to act in a way that is detrimental to others, it doesn't serve any of the purpose that we seek to attain.
Kowa Shimba and Jamba Digi so the Suzumuni Penkanto Chidochiagi Tabla Kia Tiriados Madoji Chetes Chikjan and Digi Milaya Chig any Tonjon chairs or the Gyunju chairs or Chiki and the Lachak in Rodevana, Teni Gudun Sauni made your chick, Sauni made your shredos.
So what we're doing from our own side, you could say, is we use whatever we have understood, whatever we came to know, whatever we study, we want to transform that so that it would be used for the benefit of others. If we don't do that and we use whatever we study, no, if we do some studies, if we turn that to be used as looking down on others, criticizing others, or even using that against others, like wielding a weapon against others, it is counterproductive to what we're seeking to do.
And the combi wangi and the Tomon Tanda Pardo and the Pachang Yambi wangi and the Komshin Yambason the Yuti and Gujitayagi Tabjilaya Tangoya Dita Sanji Chu Yamsulin Suku that Nimburo the Diredos.
So we engage with the Buddha Dharma. We engage with the essence of the Buddha Dharma, which is beginning with recognizing or identifying what it is exactly. To begin with, what is the Buddha Dharma? We come to recognize that, and then in a gradual manner, we habituate the mind with the Buddha Dharma. What we're doing is we're looking at our habitual tendencies that we have developed since time without beginning and up until now. We have developed some bad habits. We have placed some negative imprints upon the mind stream since time without beginning and up until now. And what we do in the practice is we change that. We transform that. This is the essence of our practice.
Maraldi ya komdi shujin gyurum shu jilaya komdi chadewainza di lamsa chu chojo mundoz ko komzawainza that di nimbu di and nimbu di and chelaya janjin chu jan chu shin badilaya komdi tenjin and di kabdi chagoyachik ro di chagdos ro.
We have acquired negative habits, bad behavior. We are so habituated with them. We're so used to them, and not just for a short time, but we have developed those habits over such a long time. So then in thinking that this is what I need to change, we have to keep our expectations in check. It's not that it would be easy, just in a matter of short time that we'll be able to bring about that transformation. To make amendments needs time. We need to begin with, first of all, studying and then training.
These are pena savigi golam need pena tomani monsum to be shita ti tobi and nimu sevi sepati and in govati and chukunjong moyes ra kyamulaya to showers that chungu pigi one dungal ngus kyong di direla di shayoros ina ya di yimba chamjigi ani nganju lanen du matar baina di nganju ya ngus pen to to ya di khabu shuz do asra.
So then when we connect it up with what we've been discussing in the last few weeks, so we spoke of the Dharma Jewel. The actual Dharma Jewel is true paths and true cessations. This is the actual refuge, the Dharma refuge. So an exalted wisdom that perceptually realizes selflessness being a true path. And the true cessations that are developed, that are enacted through the perceptual realization of selflessness. This is our actual refuge, the real refuge. That will give us real protection from suffering. But if we don't practice on a gradual manner, it'd be difficult to create that refuge. Without practice, simply going for refuge to the Dharma will not give us the protection that we need. The real protection that we need are true paths and true cessations, and without practicing, they will not come to pass.
These are Karsada Kanjing Nanzu Susulaya Chu Kunjo the Devi, Chuchi Yobaina, T Tony, and Rangi Dunga Tuyagi, Revachi, Nesam the Dindroja Tungudusra, Sosugi Kang Shimbati, Sosugi Lama Givishin Duni, Kang any Shuchini, Kang Shimbigi, Chuti, and Komdi Tembaina. Di dinji shimbadi sosu gyule yorwas sosu gyule yebigi ani chug labja digi ani komji tembaina ani sosu gyuji komsing yambadi tende ta di ngosun jomto yagi rewaj dos tinza sosu gi chukunjo kasada ani rangi kabab ksenamudu digi chukunjo ngorodi 소수 신비기 소수기 안에 귤의 예비기 최디착도 왔으라.
So then looking at the Dharma Jewel that we develop in our own mind stream, that would be protection from suffering. So whatever we know, whatever we understand, whatever advice or training we got from our spiritual teacher, from our virtuous friend, we develop that in our own mind. Not only we acquire that knowledge in our own mind, we also develop greater and greater familiarity with the understanding that is born in our mind stream. And that becomes the real Dharma Jewel, the actual Dharma Jewel. So it is contained within our own mind stream.
Tezada dirjidangi ani jisu jamongombi sonamolaya lamtamji kebarchasi lamtamji shibarchas dindiyores kanji ani che khangi bati kanji rangulaya ani chunchini di togi ani rangyu da donga tsawa nyumun jomsu jikson yorumado jengyu ke pege anchi ani lamden dan gorden dan chi ani sangi ani kosontugi yonden sunjeni ani shengula khayaba digi ani rangyugi nyumulaya ngosundo sichik tsawani somondas
Kodadi, correct?
Shengula yobi
Shengula. Maitreya, the protector Maitreya in his ornament for clear realization spoke of developing all paths in one's own mind stream, coming to know all paths. The development of all paths in one's own mind stream, coming to know all paths, means that you develop those things by which you destroy afflictions, which are the root of suffering in your own continuum. So you come to destroy the root of your own suffering. You develop true paths and true cessations that bring about the elimination of your own suffering, rather than developing them so that you can destroy suffering in the mind stream of other, mainly what you come to destroy is your own suffering.
Dinza kanji, dinza nganzugi 퇴성 공성 지진 간지 깔리기합니다. 네 수승은 깔리기하고 레도스라 단속이 자오름지기 아니 장관으로 쓴거 친구 아니 지진 장비야 아니 무슨 샤신 따지 그게 메다마선나 까미슈 갑들이야 인캬랑기 관심받다 아니 냠내는 피길이야 공자 도거스 잠비양기 제롬질이야 간지 셰사마즈나 인캬랑 드론 깔리기하면 아니 도리기한캬랑기 디체고로지 송도스라 송도 딘자 다 콘남비 딘디지까지 두리 나고야나 만수다 다 이임바로즈라스 라 이임바로스.
Which means that altogether what we then need to do is to work hard in our study, reflection, and meditation, to persevere. Which is the point that His Holiness the Dalai Lama made today when he spoke of the event in which Lama Tsongkhapa had a direct vision of Manjushri. He got an advice from Manjushri face to face, and Manjushri told him that what he needs to do now is to practice, to meditate on whatever he came to know. Which means that when we put it, when we put a finger on what Manjushri told Lama Tsongkhapa, he said, now is the time to work hard, to persevere in your practice, in your meditation, with whatever understanding you have developed. So if this is what Manjushri told Tsongkhapa in that vision, we can say that just as well it applies to us. We also need to work hard to persevere in practicing and meditating on whatever we come to understand through our study.
The Nanzule Kanga Kadina Chigdosda, Nanzula Kanga ko Kanta Chin Drova in the Nanzuta Koale, Kietsi, Mijinza, and Kani in a Kanga's Chigdos. Tinza Kanga and Kale Dungaji Tolia, Dekovadi, Nanzu Seremumi, Lake Turkey, and in Pama Inza, the dig Name Mazovat, Nanzulia, Cheta makers rendas. The Kale Nyangu, Kale Nyangu Chavich, Kale Yashavana, Yashi Direndas Ra. Tinza any Chu Tolia, Kale Yashavana. Chu Tola Kale Magana Nanzula Kanga, Dimanche the Cheg does it. Tinza Chu Tolia, Kale Yashavana, and Kale Javadi, and Tongu Chavich, Yazijatamba, or Dintos Remedies Ra.
And in so doing, we will experience difficulties and problems. This is a share in samsara, in cyclic existence. The moment we are born in cyclic existence, it is guaranteed that there will be difficulties and problems to us. So this is unavoidable. So if we are to experience suffering in cyclic existence, suffering, problems, difficulties, we can take into consideration that this is a result of previous actions that we have done in cyclic existence. So needless to say that we experience the results of those actions, but what we can do is not to work hard, to even if we need to go through hardship in whatever we do, we're going to do it well so that we'll be able to then practice the Dhamma to make a change in our life, to bring about transformation. So rather than not doing anything about our current situation and just experiencing more difficulties and problems, what we can do is to put the Dhamma into practice so that we will then bit by bit develop a state in which we will no longer experience problems.
Redo Tinza and in answer Tsepoya di and Chu tender and Chona Chu tender and solar down to a Chombaina and Kiawani Kiawuni and Dendrola Kiagi Kokovichi top drugores Chu with the Gondichina top drugores that Dimaji any need Sendelia and Jacam down. 직 동가 mambu jiungsa samche and ditsu sematuni ani da rang devi chedo ani janlaya nizimbashi chik ani janlaya trojamchi shengi deva chedu seya soba ani chik shengi pigi tseso ani troyala soba tu shin drobaina ani tsed pewada ani nyewa muthamebala yan drogoya chik ko lendeg ton dili chadro gorasra.
We can certainly see around us that there are those that pass away after experiencing difficulties and problems. This is clearly visible to us. So the passing away, death, is certain. So then if we can find ourselves in a situation where we are dying, but we're doing it with the mind of we're doing it for the sake of Dharma, thinking that since anyway I have to die, so I will also do that for the sake of the Dharma. That state of mind will bring about, will secure a happy rebirth. If we don't think about this situation in that way, if we'll develop another attitude, thinking that, for example, if I don't take care of myself, there's a danger that I'll go hungry, thirsty, I will not have enough to get by. And therefore, I need to get what I need from others, even if it's at the expense of harming others, using others, abusing others, cheating others, and so forth. If we develop that attitude and take advantage of others, that will bring about a miserable rebirth that will have suffering without any limit, without any bounds.
간지 추억을 들었던디 아니 전부 전장다 덴바 den장지기 토미 로트와이나 아니 개와 침만균이 랑가 여바치 간지 아니 소소라야 랑가 여바치 디 마치바치 아니 준당 고코타 마타와다 마르다 디디장장 지기 토미 드와이나 간지 랑가 메바치 디 렌데기
If we act in an honest way, if we are truthful, that is the path that we can proceed along future lifetimes. Contrary to that, if we lie to others, if we become dishonest, if we cheat others, if we take advantage of others, we lose our way. This is the way that karma works.
This is the data chun yamlin chingi jingwani that jidan 2000 chun yamlin chingi jingwani that chungwani chun yamlin chingi jingwani and legendary zisung chigoya di the shizakora di chabudas legendary zisung chigoya di.
The very base for our Dharma practice is the consideration of karma. This is what we need to do. We need to have a good consideration of karma.
There's someone shogi jalu sondeagi that tendergi namalaya dudevachi tenjen devan jumi chugi achi tararumba mambu jiabati samalolaya chik suzugi namchug tone and shugdrim bebacheni and chebachebaina and to samalo suzugi and semlaya montre tugachi shin tugachi yasigadamba yunguyosaris.
And also this is what His Holiness was getting at today when he was speaking of dependent origination, which has many different levels, such as, for example, the level of karma. So we want to use our wisdom, our intelligence in order to analyze, in order to investigate the different levels of dependent origination.
Tere chidang nganzu manam gyawandi sangi kombo toba shosel simja tamja sangi wa shosel chi manam dini gyagwaras chidang manam dus labjin shures yinna ya kayo layo gi nganzu gi pigi tsosa dribjan chedi ani kayo layo soso gi pigi gi ta nelu tombani gi tere ani chanju gu sem ninjilo soba di kaptu rangila ya ani ki tuya gi chedo tsosa dribjan chebaina the Dingonigi 카요라요 펜도 연구에서 samsung 솔루도 쓰라.
So we say different prayers. May I attain the state of enlightenment. May all sentient beings become Buddhas and so forth. We say different prayers such as this, but then when we look at it in a more practical level, if in a practice we accumulate the collections, we purify obscurations, we can practice all of those different things with the mind thinking, may I develop wisdom, the wisdom that realizes reality, to see the way that things exist as they are. And for that end, I'm accumulating, I'm purifying, and so forth. So if we then thinking in a practice, rather than just living at a level of a mere lip service, may all sentient beings, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings and so forth. If we become more practical in thinking that I'm practicing now so that I can generate the wisdom that realizes the way that things are, so that I can make that happen, it makes the practice more practical.
안다 신된 지기열의 차추비 지기열의 혼남 야기열의 이나야 니마따가 제대가 이나야 로또 제가 이나야 샘레야 요 띵주점에 마태와 상점이야 연구도 때디 가르치는 아니 교태 두요 말에 먼저 강장 피기라야 물론 계속 유 아니 지 아니 자비 군주스는 소바 아니 지 어디서야 Never never Slavan, it's all in Maras. In a young Anzugi, Pigi, Mulam Giava Nanshinki, Lalenji, Lea, Mus Lalenlia, Markavigi, Junzinji, Nanzu Assembly, Yotematuadi, and the Chagoras.
So we might have a certain daily practice that we will do for years on end, for many years, continuously, in which we do every day certain prayers, certain recitations, and so forth. And yet, over time, we might discover that our mind hasn't changed even a bit. So why is it that there is no mental transformation that occurs even if we do it for a long time? If you find that this is the case, and you think that it has no power to change my mind, I've been going for refuge through 3 jewels. I've been reciting refuge for the 3 jewels, and still there's no change that occurs in my mind. Is it that my refuge in the 3 jewels have no ability, no power? This is not the case. It is rather that we don't really apply those practices to our own mind. We do not let them directly affect our mind. If we don't let them directly affect our mind, change will not come.
Tiri kansana chochile yang anzu manam gyabdangi manam gichi miyu zudo di pigile ya nga kibu yongrenjda nga debu yongrenjda nga chi lamro yongrenjda ya samni ani dembande manam gyabdeba ina peshi yongmasi gwadrochik tanda de drum masi gwadchik tende chagwasares.
So we say prayers, or we do different recitations, and if our motivation or our attitude in doing our prayers and thinking, I'm doing that so that I will be happy, may I be well, may I be successful, this type of intentional motivation renders a prayer to be ineffective. It's going to be impossible to get what we seek, to find happiness, to find success, to be well, if our goal from the very get-go is just for our own happiness.
Kasna digi manam gya digi nga nyambigi nanzi di shukchirtan yak surachik ra nanzi shukchirtan yak gibja surachik charuchik basra.
For when we make such prayers and thinking, may I be happy, may I be well, what we're focusing on is me. Our sense of grasping at I, grasping at me, is becoming stronger and stronger. And when your sense of grasping at I, grasping at me is becoming stronger and stronger, it is making it impossible for your happiness or well-being to come about.
단 난지 슈칠 드바이나 차당 규 슈칠 드고로 왔어. 라 아니 차당 슈칠 차요 그래. 차당 또이 아니 가서다 등하마도 대화용야 메바디 딱 쇼기 라 니마숭들이 야오름치 망치아디 디강을 손손스라 디르스다.
And when that strong sense of I or me is increasing in your mind, right? So it's becoming stronger and stronger. Anger and attachment are also becoming stronger and stronger. Right? So the strong sense of I fuels a greater degree of anger, attachment, and so forth. Then with those afflictive states of mind, you will have only suffering. You will not have happiness. And this is what His Holiness was getting at the teaching that he gave during the last 3 days.
Tinza dimajiwaji nga jidang ani sosuda kibu mundungi jidang sosu dewa mundungi jidang sosu le dungajuna ganginchi yomarda yinaya samlo tangdan di ko tabkibu jigtoni samlo tani drogu das ra tabkibu jigtoni kansina ani gang pilaya manam jaya ani chi ani debantaya di ani chi sanji chamden di kan labsha ju labsha di ani shinya gi tolaya ro shinya gi tolaya jarbaina tende dipensar samudus ro dipengrata.
So it's not that now, rather than making those aspirations, may I be happy, may I be well, we need to make counter aspirations. May I suffer, may I not be happy, may I have unhappiness. It's not that we need to say such prayers now. This is not the solution. What we need to do is to be skillful in what we aspire for. So if we do certain prayers, certain aspirations, certain recitations, what we need to think of is, may I be able to use them in order to develop a better understanding of the teachings that the Buddha gave.
산지 공부 토요래 자존 공부 토요래 장주스미 공부 토요래 로 드수기 냠내 간다스 시기도 드수 투성 간다스 시기도 덴지 토라야 데스치 수수기 롭종 체바이나 아니 간주 상로 땅다 노리여버지 하고바이나 아니 다들 지금 띵겨 땅고 삼비기 상로 딩용사라스 디마도 아니 녜 삼바디니 아니 콘조 삼바든 마레 삼 로데바이나 안 카르미 카리 냠바이나야 수수 삼로 딩겨 땅토야디 가고 슈지 차기도 왔으라.
A common advice that is given to someone that begins their life in a monastery, when they study their when they begin their studies in the monastery, is to supplement their study with looking at accounts and biographies of great masters from the past. Not only those great beings, great practitioners of the past, but also of the Buddha, the Bodhisattvas, those great practitioners, precious, virtuous friends, spiritual teachers of the past. If you read through the biographies, through the accounts, you find that very, very helpful, because you can get a sense of how they attained the state of Buddhahood or became an Arhat. How did they become Bodhisattvas? What are the things that they practice? How did they study? How did they reflect? When you then see how they have achieved their own spiritual attainment through study, reflection, and practice, then you can also recognize your own failings. What is not right in your attitude? Because often we become hard-headed in thinking that this is my view and I do not accept the view of others. And when we become so entrenched in the way that we think, when we refuse to accept others' position and we accept only our position, what we think, we still remain limited and we cannot see our own shortcomings. So Claire is asking, could Geshe talk on how karma and the truth of dependent origination work in conjunction with each other? Is karma created a creative force? There's an tenjung tendel dan legumde se di la dewa karayonas. The lende se di tenjung gi jepaporeves. The lende gi tenjung sugirves kadichimas.
Lende di tenjung gi
Karma is one part of dependent origination. It's one of the levels of dependent origination. So there is a class of phenomena that is called compounded phenomena. Compounded phenomena, all of them arise or originate in dependence upon others. In fact, all phenomena are dependent and are related, right? They are dependent related phenomena. Part of dependent related phenomena are compounded phenomena, which are also dependent arising.
So
we use the term dependent arising, dependent origination. The meaning of this term is only referring to those that arise in dependence upon causes and conditions. So with these phenomena which are compounded, they are dependent origination. They arise in dependence upon others. Even the smallest particle of such phenomena arises in dependence upon causes and conditions, for example. Dependently originated phenomena, sorry, I should have said, compounded phenomena are dependently originated phenomena. So then when we look at the level of karma, which is part of dependent origination, karma refers to actions that we take, virtues or non-virtuous actions, which are motivated by a certain motivation. Having a good motivation, we perform an action, that action becomes a virtuous action. Whereas motivated by anger or attachment, the action that we take on that basis becomes a non-virtuous action. And if we expand on dependently arisen phenomena, we can also look at these phenomena that exist relative to others, in relation to others.
아니 교험이 비치 담다 그 남자라 써봐 아니 지 림보든 통을 써봐 샤르다 누세라 써 탐제로 아니 뜨는 샤그도 왔어
If we expand on dependently arisen phenomena, we can also speak of this phenomena that exist in relation to others. Like, for example, positing permanent and impermanent phenomena. They're posited in relation to each other, in relation to these phenomena, which are changing from moment to moment. In relation to them, you can also look at phenomena which are not momentarily changing and vice versa. In relation to these phenomena which are not momentarily changing, you can posit these phenomena which are momentarily changing. Similarly, when you look at other phenomena that are posited in relation, like for example, long and short, these phenomena exist in relation to each other. In relation to long, you can speak about short. In relation to short, you can speak about long.
제가 차슈가래 레디 다 텐타부 텐종 세 되나 난주 에니 난주 탄닌 강요바티 되나 나세 아니 나티야 피기리야 다시라파 따좀 토니 아니 나이 차치고 좀도 아니 강 따사기 시 다시 띵 제니 나생니 니지메다 겨울지 세부 쇼지 송송스라 드리스 인자 드스 상황로다 텐타부 텐종 세티
Then if you go into the most subtle level of dependent origination, we can speak of these phenomena, which those dependently arisen phenomena, which are dependently imputed. They're merely imputed in dependence on others. Like, for example, I, the mere I. It exists only in being imputed in depending upon its basis of imputation. If you look within the basis of imputation, you'll not be able to find it. The I exists only as being imputed in depending upon it. So this is what His Holiness was getting at, or was explaining in such a clear way in today's session. So we might leave it here for today. We have had a long day, so thank you very much. Let's leave it here for now. I'll put the prayers on the screen. Dedication prayers.
May the Supreme Jewel,
Bodhicitta, which is the risen, the rising, grow, and increase more and more.
due to the merits of his religious actions, may our being attain the state of this order and in all living beings
without exception to that enlightened state.
In the
The land
land
is
is
yet blessed, no mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful raising thanks and Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends.
You who are whole, the jewel small way, search us about all
Thereof all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading much in our victorious doctrine. O mercifully accomplish, honoring the three jewels, savior of myself and others, your disciples. Please, live on.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Shukchil
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry?
It's the last time I'm standing up today.
Well, I mean, you can take it in the wrong way. You would hope that it's not the last time that you stand up today, otherwise it would be.
I'm already standing, so I don't have to stand up.
All right.
So while I'm standing. You know, getting the mind to sit in the chair, getting the body to sit in the chair. Makes me cry. You never know, but when it's hanging, it's not going to be anyway, so far so good. Oh yeah. And then it's already set up like this. Yes, actually, it's better recovery one person still there, one person hanging out.
Heather still hanging out, waiting. Yeah, you can turn it off because I can turn it off, but getting down
on your knees.
it would require having to stand up again.
So
There's one person still there hanging out. Got a conversation.
okay.
There isn't. Actually, no,
Everybody's gone. Okay.
That's okay.
I'll let you go.
I left it on because I wanted them to see the gompa.
Yeah, nice.